pretty familiar with the buyer and seller market in real estate, where the advantage switches back and forth from buyers to sellers based on the economic factors at hand. But did you ever realize that the same exact philosophy is true with the employment market? During the recession, we were in an employer's market where it was pretty easy to get and keep the talent that we needed. But we have now transitioned over into an employees market where employees and candidates have the upper hand today. They have an advantage because everyone is hiring. So I want to talk with you today about our workforce, in particular this millennial mindset that we're seeing come into the workplace. Now, a lot of people know the general demographics here, that we had 80 million baby boomers in the workplace. Now, this number is shrinking from a workforce standpoint because 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day. What a lot of people don't realize is that Gen X, the group right behind them, was about half their size. Now, what that means is that when the Gen Xers came into the work world 15, 20 years ago, they came in with new ideas and wanting to do things differently, but their baby boomer supervisors and bosses would not let them. Okay, they did not want to wear pantyhose, I promise you. But their bosses said they had to. So what most Gen Xers tell me is that they learned pretty early in their career that if they wanted to advance and wanted to be successful, they were going to have to play the boomer game. So they adopted this boomer mentality of how we manage people and lead people and how we schedule and what professionalism looks like, all these types of things. And they became what I lovingly call pseudo boomers because they took on those same definitions. Now here is the game changer. We have 80 million millennials. And you haven't even met us all yet in the workforce because we go all the way down to age 16. And this is the same exact group as Gen Y, if you look at the demographics and things. It just depends on the research. In fact, I don't care what year you were born. Different researchers say different things. What I care more about is what is your mindset? How were you raised differently than other people? And in what times were you raised that make you who you are today? So I'm going to share with you this millennial mindset today. And remember, it doesn't have to be somebody who is between ages 16 and 36. This is anybody who has this type of mindset. And you may also have some millennials in your workforce that are in their 20s, and you love these old soul millennials. You know these, they show up. They show up on time. They do what you tell them. And they certainly don't wear leggings to work, do they? No. So we're going to talk about this more broad millennial mindset of a lot more of those young workers, not the old souls, but the people who were raised like I was. So these are the issues on the table. What we're going to address is technology, authority, balance, loyalty, and entitlement. The first one here is technology. Now, if you think about when you were a really young kid and how you listened to your favorite song over and over and over again, most baby boomers started with record players, and they had those record players through their childhood and through high school into their early adulthood. And some of you boomers probably still have your records. I'm certain of it. Now, if we look at a millennial's perspective on the other end of the spectrum here, by the time I was born in 1981, I started with cassettes. Then I quickly moved to CDs. Then I was asking for an iPod for my birthday. And we were the first college group to start illegally downloading music on Napster, okay? So that meant that our formative years, what happened in those first 20 years of my life, was very different as far as my relationship with technology than any boomer's experience. So that relationship with technology has now transformed itself in our workplace as our comfort level with change. So no wonder you have some millennials in your workplace that are saying, oh, well, this is too slow and that needs to be automated, and don't you know there's an app for that now? versus the other end of the spectrum that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I've been doing it just fine the way I've been doing it for the last 10 or 15 years. Don't you come in here, you little whippersnapper, and tell me how to do my job or run my department, okay? Right? We're seeing both sides of this, and I can understand where they're coming from. In fact, on all of these different spectrums, there is no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong, but as leaders, you cannot be extreme. You can't be on one end or the other. We've got to find middle ground as managers and leaders to lead our organization forward. So you've got to look for that appropriate pace for change. Then we have authority. Now, my mom was raised completely differently than me. She was told at the dinner table, you don't have an opinion unless I give it to you, young lady. So when she had two little girls, man, she swung that parenting pendulum so far the other direction and made sure that we had a voice. What do you want for dinner tonight, Cara? Where do you want to go on vacation this year, Cara? Now, my family was so equal in our vote that every 4 years, my mom, my dad, my sister, and me, we would rotate who got to pick the family vacation spot. When I was 10 years old, it was my choice, and I wanted to go to Boston so bad, okay? 1991, 10-year-old girl, why does she want to go to Boston? Because that's where the new kids on the block lived, right? Duh. So we got on a plane, and we flew to Boston to go try to find Joey McIntyre's house, all right? I was in love with him. So you can imagine then in the workplace why we again have this widening spectrum where we have a lot of folks who respect this chain of command and expect others to respect that as well. Then you've got kids like me coming in that say, whoa, no, we're all equal here. This is more egalitarian, is what we call it. And we believe that everyone is needed, everyone is valuable, and we should all be appreciated for that value. Whether I'm clinical, admissions, housekeeping, environmental services, dietary, it doesn't matter. We all have to do our jobs to make sure this building runs well and that our seniors are well cared for. So, very different. Another difference that we see today is this work-life balance. Now, I'm guessing for most of you in the room, when you started your career, you didn't have a cell phone in your pocket, did you? No. So things have changed dramatically over the years. Not only with that, but we also have so many single parents in our workforce today. We have so many people who are carrying a second job in our workforce today. So we have got to understand their reality and their priorities, personal and professional, because I'll tell you, it is next to impossible with cell phones today for us to separate the personal from professional sides of our lives. Another thing that's difficult for us to understand is this innate sense of loyalty for loyalty's sake. Most millennials don't know what loyalty looks like. We've never seen it. Divorce peaked in the 1980s. Most of us saw our parents or our best friends' parents split during those formative years. Then came the 90s and early 2000s when the internet caused globalization for most of corporate America. They started offshoring and outsourcing and downsizing. My mom is a corporate accountant who always got stellar performance reviews. She got laid off 3 times before I hit college. My parents split when I was 11. I remember the day when my 15-year-old mom, I remember the day when I was 15 and my single mom came walking through the front door with tears in her eyes, having been blindsided by another layoff, looking for my shoulder to cry on. That gives you a whole different perspective on company loyalty. She said, don't ever depend on a spouse or a company for your livelihood. You have got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And then we also saw examples of loyalty where our parents stuck it out, and sometimes they got that raw end of the deal, but sometimes they would stay. They would stay working for a boss they didn't like, a company they didn't like, or they'd stay married to somebody they didn't like. And when they finally got out of those miserable situations after 10, 15, 20 plus years, you know what they said to their kids? Don't do it. Don't do what I did, because life is too short and you should not be unhappy for too long. We then translated that teaching over to what we call YOLO. All right? By the way, this is not cool anymore. Once our parents figured out what it stood for, we stopped using it, okay? Kind of like Facebook. But YOLO stands for you only live once. You only live once. And even though it's not a cool hashtag anymore, it's still very relevant in our workplace today. This is the #1 reason for turnover. I don't like my supervisor. I'm out. I don't like my schedule. I'm out. I didn't like the way you just talked to me. I'm out. And they can leave because everybody else is hiring. Really important for us to understand what's going on in their heads today. And then my favorite, entitlement. Anybody have a few entitled little whippersnappers running around your building? I figured you did. So here's the explanation. Credit cards. Personal credit cards became mainstream for middle-class families to use in the 1980s. Ding, ding, ding. So that meant for the first time, these parents didn't have to have the cash in their pocket to spoil their kids and to get us everything we asked for. Then came keeping up with the Joneses. If you think about the holidays, your holidays, before 1980, it's a whole different world. It was about family, food, fellowship, the reason you were gathering around that table. And today, it's about stuff and all the logistics around house hopping and the schedule and the financial obligations. So who's the beneficiary of that explosion in the commercialization of our society? The millennials. We have gotten almost everything we ever asked for. So it's no wonder that we come into the workplace with a heightened sense of entitlement. It's no wonder we come in with a lack of deep-rooted loyalty for loyalty's sake, or that we have trouble separating our personal from professional lives. Every generation is merely a product of the way they were raised. Every generation. So what is it that a lot of the millennials are looking for today in an employer? Well, they want to be heard. They want to have a voice. They want recognition and appreciation for a job well done. I did not say for going the extra mile or going above and beyond. I showed up all 5 shifts this week. You better pat me on the back, all right? Now, I know that seems ridiculous, and some of you are thinking that's why they get a paycheck. But the reality is all those silly participation ribbons are coming back to haunt the employers today, because I showed up, I played the game, and I got recognition for being on the team. So this doesn't cost us anything, just a couple minutes, just a couple seconds really to say thank you. But it's time for every leader and every manager to turn up the dial on their recognition meter and start thanking people when they show up. Thank them if they show up on time. Thank them when they do a good job, even if it is their job. Because when I talk to other administrators, directors of nursing, and others in this field, they tell me there's a lot of people who don't show up and don't do their job. So let's just recognize the people that we truly are grateful who are there and who are taking great care of our residents. They also want opportunities for advancement. Any position where people are leaving because they feel stuck or they feel like there's no room to grow here, you can level out that position. What I mean is figure out what the competencies are in that role, such as a CNA. You know that a CNA with 6 years of experience is far better than a CNA with 6 months of experience. What's the difference? So define out what those competencies are and then create chances for them to level up. I'm a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 CNA. Give me those opportunities to move up in the chain so that you never have anybody leave because there's no opportunities for advancement here. Then we want flexibility. We are all looking for a greater quality of life and that better balance. And so please give people more choices on their scheduling. We've got to give that power and that say over to the employees where they get to select their schedules. Do you have 4-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour shift options? And some of you might think that's a nightmare. Get scheduling software. It will manage a lot of the priorities and preferences that your workforce has that is going to be needed to keep them, all right? And then we're all looking for a coach, not a boss. Nobody wants to work for a boss anymore. We want coaches who help us do things better. So if there's one thing I could tell you that is the silver bullet on reducing employee turnover, it is make sure your supervisors and managers have the tools and training they need to be successful. We have cut training and development over the years, and we've got to bring it back to make sure that those frontline supervisors and managers at all levels in our organization can absolutely have those important conversations and coach their people to be better. Oh, but wait a minute. Newsflash. Guess what everybody in the workplace wants? Bum, ba-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, right? This is not rocket science. Everybody in your workplace wants it to be this way. So what is the real impact that the millennials are having, this huge cohort that really is shifting the way that we are going to do business over the next 5, 10 to 50 years? The real impact is that we are helping leaders find new ways to create a place where people want to work, where everyone wants to work. This isn't about millennials. It's about creating a place where people want to work. So do me a favor. Get to know this new workforce. Don't assume, don't judge. Get to know them, because getting to know them on an individual basis is going to help you build the trust and loyalty to extend their tenure so that we can get the staffing stability we so dearly need to provide the greatest quality of care. Thank you.